All right, let's talk about one of the most famous and maybe one of the most fragile paintings in the entire world, Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper. It's this incredible story of human drama, technical disaster, and somehow survival against all the odds. Let's dive right in. One of you will betray me. Everything, and I mean everything in this painting happens in the split second right after those words are spoken. It's the single explosive moment. And Leonardo's challenge wasn't just to paint a dinner party. It was to paint the emotional shockwave that rips through that room. Okay, so let's get our bearings here. Leonardo spent 3 years from 1495 to 1498 creating this. And it's not on a canvas. It's painted directly onto the wall of a monastery's dining hall in Milan. And this thing is massive. We're talking about 15 feet tall and nearly 30 feet wide. The whole point was to make the monks feel like this epic biblical event was happening right there in the room with them. So how in the world did Leonardo take this incredibly chaotic, emotional moment and turn it into a masterpiece that we can actually understand? Well, that's where we get into the anatomy of the reaction he's so brilliantly captured. Seriously, think about that challenge for a second. You've got 13 people at a table. One of them has just been called out as a traitor, and another one is the Son of God. How do you possibly organize that storm of emotion onto a flat wall and make it feel real, human, and divine all at the same time? This was the central puzzle Leonardo had to solve. So how did he do it? With pure genius, that's how. He used geometry to control the chaos. You've got Jesus right at the center, forming this perfectly calm and stable pyramid shape. Meanwhile, the apostles just erupt outwards from him, but in these 4 distinct, beautifully organized groups of 3. And get this, every line in the room's architecture, the ceiling, the walls, everything, points your eye directly to Christ's head. It's a masterclass in drawing you in. And it perfectly captures that big Renaissance idea of showing the divine through raw, powerful human emotion. And inside those 4 groups, you see this whole spectrum of psychological reactions. Way over on the left, it's just pure shock and loud denial. Then in the next group, you see Judas pulling back into the shadows, clutching a bag of money. An enraged Peter is right there, grabbing a knife. To the right of Jesus, there's a group caught in total disbelief, asking questions. And on the far right, a heated debate has broken out. Every single group tells its own little story. To get that unbelievable, lifelike quality, Leonardo used his signature technique, sfumato. It's Italian for smoky. And basically, instead of using sharp, hard outlines, he would just blend the colors and tones so seamlessly that it created this soft, hazy effect. It's what makes the figures look so real, like they could actually breathe. But, and this is a huge but, that incredible realism came at a terrible cost. To get it, Leonardo threw out a reliable, centuries-old technique and decided to try a dangerous experiment, one that would almost completely destroy his masterpiece. You see, the normal way to paint on a wall was with fresco. You put your pigment on wet plaster, it dries fast, so you have to work quickly, but it's super durable. Well, Leonardo hated working fast. He wanted to work slowly, to layer colors, to perfect every detail. So he basically invented his own method, using oil and tempera paint on a dry wall. It gave him the time and the rich colors he wanted, but it was a complete disaster for durability. The paint never actually bonded to the wall. And the results were catastrophic. I mean, the paint started flaking off almost immediately. Just a few decades after it was finished, the historian Giorgio Vasari came to see it and said it was already just a muddle of blots. Leonardo's great experiment had totally failed. And that failure kicked off a 500-year-long battle, a desperate and often pretty clumsy struggle to save a masterpiece that was actively dying right before the world's eyes. As you can see, the problem started early. The first big restoration back in 1726 was a clumsy mess. They basically just painted over the damage with oil paint and varnish, hiding even more of the original. And for centuries, that's what happened. More restorers added more layers until very little of Leonardo's actual work was even visible. That is, until the late 20th century. 21 years. Let that sink in for a second. That's how long it took for a team of scientists and art restorers to do the most painstaking, high-tech restoration in history. A whole generation of work just to peel back the centuries of damage and bad repairs. And the process was just incredible. First, they sealed the whole room to create a climate-controlled environment. Then, they used scientific tools like infrared scanners to literally see through the grime and map out what was left of Leonardo's original work. Then came the really hard part. removing centuries of dirt and old paint, inch by painstaking inch. Finally, for the parts that were completely lost, they filled in the gaps with muted watercolors, so you can always tell what's Leonardo's work and what's a modern repair. But this all leads to a really fascinating and kind of controversial question. After all the decay, all the clumsy repairs, and now this massive scientific restoration, how much of what we see today is actually Leonardo? Some critics argue it's been so altered that it's lost its soul. It's a debate that's still going on. And yet, despite how fragile it is, despite all the debates about its authenticity, the painting has done more than just survive. It has absolutely thrived as a cultural icon. So why? Well, the reasons are as complex as the painting itself. Sure, it's a cornerstone of religious art, but it's also just this profound study of human psychology that anyone can relate to. Betrayal, shock, anger, loyalty. Because it's so famous, it's become one of the most copied and parodied images ever. It's been used for everything. Its power isn't just in what Leonardo painted anymore, but in what we all continue to see. So we're left with this amazing paradox, a work of sheer genius that was also a technical failure, saved from total destruction by centuries of human effort. It makes you wonder, this 500-year-old story has survived so much. What new meanings will we find in it another 500 years from now?